Hello, beauties. Happy Friday to you all. I hope this finds you all loving life. So today I actually wanted to talk about assisting us to be loving life more with regards to transcending discomforting emotions that we may be experiencing in any given now. And the inspiration for that came to me because I am where I am in my menstrual cycle right now, that discomforting emotions are a little bit more overwhelming to my beingness, and which got me thinking about the fact that there's a lot of people that are dealing with a lot more discomforting emotions, as I've spoken to you in a few of the past videos based upon things that are happening globally. So I thought it would probably be a good idea to share some ways by which we may transcend the discomforting feelings in the most positive and expedient and beneficial manner for self and everyone. Obviously, having discomforting feelings, first and foremost, is not a healthy experience, nor one that any of us enjoy. It does not promote homeostasis. It causes stress and other issues, whereas feeling bliss, calmness, relaxed, much more healthy for the beingness. So that's the first thing I wanted to say regarding why we're wanting to transcend, as opposed to, no, let's feel this. It's like, no, it's not good. So the same way that we have an IQ, there's an EQ. So the EQ talks to our emotional intelligence or maturity. So the reason that I brought up where I am in my menstrual cycle is that being where I'm at, my younger me is more present and emotionally less mature, refined, and graceful than I am, and more reactionary, and again, more prone to really holding on to emotions. And I thought that if I use myself as an example, it would be the most clear means by which we can explain how we can transcend discomforting emotions. So depending on where we're at in our level of emotional maturity in any given now, we may need different ways of transcending discomforting emotion. So last week, for example, I felt some rage, but as soon as I felt the rage, I acknowledged it. I accepted that it was there. I knew why. I knew what was inciting it. And I was almost as immediately as I was aware of that, able to come up with an alternative perspective that let me release it. So that would be a heightened, a higher level of maturity emotionally. An even higher one would be that you wouldn't even have that negative emotional feeling at all. It would just maybe be more like a vibrational shift in your beingness that would flow through you. Okay, so one of the things that I made mention of in discussing this was that, number one, I acknowledged that I was having a feeling. Number two, I accepted that it was a discomforting feeling that I did not want to be feeling or enjoying. And I also acknowledged what was the stimuli that was inciting that feeling. Okay, so those three things, important. Next level. So next level would be more where, so the emotion is so much so that we cannot just have this little quiet thing inside of our head. We need to get it out in some form of expression. So we might want to write about it, sing about it, dance about it, and depending on how far down we are in our level of maturity will depend on how much we need. We wind up going to a point where we might need to rant and vent and scream and yell and just really like, ah! Or cry like hysterically. And that's okay. right? These are all okay. What we want to do in these situations, first and foremost, is if we can, again, depending where we're at, make sure that we are alone so that we are not affecting anybody else and that nobody else is going to hear us when we are ranting and raving or kicking and screaming, so on and so forth. Also, one of the things that we want to have in mind is that as much as possible, we don't want to be reprojecting the negativity that we have experienced back onto the stimuli that created it. And it doesn't make a difference if it's a billboard that you read or a person that you don't really know very well or somebody that you do know very, very well. It doesn't matter if they actually did it like outright, like Trump actually is passing these policies. For me to turn around and get really upset with the policies that he's passing and then start calling him names and putting him down is belittling myself and accomplishing nothing positive. It's just putting more yuck out into the world and towards him, which we are wanting to imbue him with as much love as possible so that that starts coming out of him. So it's counterproductive. You want to still identify, however, what it is that's upsetting you. So yes, the fact that he's making these choices, what the policies are, what they indicate, these are the things that are upsetting me. Okay, so last week, as I said, I was able to change it immediately. This week, having a quiet expression of my anger was not good enough. So I needed somebody to be my witness and play it off of. And in a situation like that, you want to request that the individual that you are going to be sharing with is okay with you sharing before you just spew your negativity all over them. And we want to do this because we are giving them the conscious choice that they are knowingly going to be in an environment that is about to shift into one that has greater negativity within it, as well as allowing them to have the preparation to ensure that they are not going to take on or take in the negativity that's going to be spewed. And if they do, that at least it was their conscious choice that they made to participate in the situation. Doing all of these things gets us to the point where once we have released the emotion, we now have the space to do what I had made mention of in the very beginning, which is find a different perspective. Be calm enough and relaxed enough to receive inspiration, to see the situation in a manner by which solutions start to be received. And therefore we can take positive strides forward. Okay, so now in summary, to get us to what it's all coming down to, we start off with this intellectual aspect, but then we're getting into the feeling aspect. And basically what that is the divine delicate balance of the mind and the heart. Or in other words, of the divine masculine and the divine feminine co-creatively collaborating in a manner by which is for the benefit of self and all in the best way possible. So both are being exalted. Neither one of them is being left out, because in truth, being love is the divine delicate balance of both. You can't have one without the other. You need them both. And when they work together, we achieve divine delicate balance. We achieve being love. So eventually we will get to the point where we don't have to go through this process, and it doesn't have to be such a process where we are so consciously aware of every step that we're taking. We have to do this right now because we aren't being loved 100,000% of the time, and the temptation to get lost in the discomforting emotion, or the temptation of fear consciousness, in other words, is still very tempting. So we need to do everything we can to assist ourselves to maintain love's grace. So we do have to go through a process. We do have to be conscious. We do have to consciously implement the utilization of both the mind and the heart, the divine masculine and the divine feminine together, so that we can transcend these emotions in the best ways possible. And of course, we can and we do all the time. But knowing that there are these means, and that yes, it is okay that you're feeling it, and it is okay that you need to get it out of you, and that we're at different levels of emotional maturity in our lives in one day even, that they shift and they change. And that it's okay that that's happening, because when we accept that it's okay, then we start making the changes to the point that we don't need to be going down to the levels of the most immature emotional responses, which would be that somebody would start having a maniacal fit in the middle of the street and then get so lost in their discomforting emotions that they might stay there for hours, if not days, if not weeks on end, which again has absolutely no positive effect for the self, let alone for anybody else. So doing whatever we can to be love is not only beneficial for self, it's beneficial for all. And hopefully this has been beneficial to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for sharing. Blessedly be in Lakesh Alakin. Namaste. Mwah. Bliss kiss.